I will never visit the Werestrike, or any land like it, and I won't support anyone who does. May its history be stricken from the records of civilization, its people banished, its miserable existence extinguished. We are soon to be off to the Werestrike. I've never been. Why do you disparage it so? Everything it stands for, its laws, its architecture, its peoples, is in support of messaging that is discriminatory, nay, dangerous to our kind. There, only hate is bred, and intolerance, and views otherwise unsustainable in our world. Hidden within its streets are the symbols of a taboo cult, promoted in secret. I see your reasoning. You mean well, Elf, but give pause. Welcome home, brave heroes and degenerate outlaws alike. I'm Ash, this is AshQuest, and Goblinko sent me a whole heaping crate full of loot. I briefly considered covering all of it in one video, but I think it would be wiser to branch out, especially with some of the plans that I have. Suffice it to say, you can expect at some point here shortly on the channel the Dungeon Degenerates Choose or Lose stories, which come with their own campaigns, their own maps, their own cards, as well as their own narrative multi-path stories. They need not play the same twice. Got a lovely sticker to add to my Goblinko collection, and 3 adventurer packs. The Hand of Doom Adventurer expansion, that's what this is called. The Malingerers expansion, 8 characters and their character sheets, standees, loot, weakness, and skill cards, and 4 coins. It comes with 4 coins. And the Freaks and Psychos expansion, 8 characters and their character sheets, standees, loot, weakness, and skill cards, and 3 epic monster cards and counters, and 1 infected counter. I have a feeling this is going to be a bit separated from standard fare, so we may do just a little bit of weaving. In case you missed it, I have unboxed Hand of Doom, and I've talked a bit about the upcoming Low-Life TTRPG from the creator of Hand of Doom. It's all set in the same Dungeon Degenerates universe, and Low-Life appeals to me specifically because you are able to take it and overlay the board game with it. There's already a lot of sandboxing in Dungeon Degenerates. There's already a lot of choice. There's already a lot of ways that your campaign can go. If you've got multiple tables, or if you are playing the game from scratch even several times, you are looking at potentially very, very different experiences and very different campaigns each time across this wasteland and the Witchwood, the Hell Pit, the Blasted Heath, Temples of Madness, Breltelberg. The Werestrike is a very diverse and creative place. This art style is not going to be for everyone, but I maintain that this is a fine, bold, consistent presentation. This is from the base game here, the Mercenary Alchemist, the Hinterlander, all characters that we have looked at in other video, well, one other video, but I show them here again to kind of give you a frame of reference for what's about to happen, because we are going to open up the, where are you, Dungeon Degenerates Hand of Doom Adventure expansion. We're doing this first. This isn't the whole video, but it's going to take a few minutes, so let's dig into it. It kind of makes me sad. I don't want to destroy the packaging, but I have to open this up to get to the blister. The blister. Now, the staples. Oh god. Okay. It was basically destined to be destroyed. It's fine. It's never going to go back into the blister pack again, I think. Or it will, and then I'll store the blister pack in the box. It's just going to be a little damaged, but I couldn't ask for a more perfect fit, literally, that was designed to fit exactly these. I like keeping my expansions separate but close to the main game. For something like this, a character expansion, as long as there's no specific requirements to use them, I'll keep them in the main game's box. I'll just keep them a little bit removed so that I have a way to categorize, just in case I want to reward people with more choice once they have completed some objectives in the base game with their existing outlaws. So obviously this is going to come with 8 characters, and they are standees, but I think standees were a fine choice for this game, even if they do have very, very nice looking sculpts for Dungeon Degenerates, which are not included in the board game, but rather as a sort of a separate product that you can get if you would like to replace the standees of the heroes with the board game. It's one of those times I don't mind standees because of the bold color and stylization of everything else in the game. I think standees are just a slightly better representation. Plus, we don't have dungeon squares that we have to move on. We just have the overland board of the quest-taking genre. So try not to confuse any of the base game components with what has just fallen out of this bag. That includes you, Toots. But everything really did just kind of fall out of the bag, so let's get some sortation going. Can you give me 40k? But I don't have 40k. 40k, 40k. Can you give me 40k? I see there was some attempt to keep the cards sort of confined. There's a band of plastic here that did not just happen to fall over the cards, but it failed miserably. It did not contain anything. It contained exactly 2 cards. That just don't go anywhere, even though we're just looking at cards and heroes for the next couple of minutes. I beg thee, prithee, stay, for I would like to go over these components in such a way as to point out sort of the conventions of the design of them and see if we can't be encouraged or otherwise inspired to use these same concepts in other games that we might be making content in for.
You speak of that land in a vacuum, as though it is the origin of such ideas that are perpetuated against your people. Indeed, against the cultures adjacent to you, against the world at large.
Is it not? Is every cursed writhing tentacle that sprouts forth from a demon not bound to that demon's will? Even if that appendage should be severed from its master's body, is it not poisoned to the touch, maddening to comprehension? Should it not also be burned? Such ideas are as demonic limbs, and they give rise to these very beasts. Real beasts that yield naught but wrack and ruin.
To your analogies and listen. I beg thee consider, in the not-so-distant past, my people were terrorized by such a manifestation of evil. A monster. It took many of our youth, destroying our homes, driving out our friends, leaving a forever blackened mark in our history. To even recount it hurts the chest.
Such is the evil of which I speak. Your people conquered the monster through sheer strength, but not everyone has such strength. Plus, we have some really cool-looking character concepts here, and I would like to read to you sort of their backstories. This is Jack Slasher, and everybody in Dungeons & Degenerates has a crime for which they have been rendered an outlaw. His crime was murder. His homeland is the fields. This lanky loner lurks amongst the fields, wearing the tattered old clothes of a young farmhand, a strange, quiet lad, gone missing some 6 years past. Hiding the features of this strange apparition is the Corpus Masca, a glowing carved pumpkin hat normally worn by heretics of the lowlands for the traditional and illegal harvest festival of Corpusnacht. Man, locals blame him for ferociously mutilated pumpkin patches. His crime is just disfiguring pumpkins, missing farm animals, and even lone travelers lost forever in the trails through the corn and wheat. His name is left scratched on the rotting wooden planks of barns and fences of the lowlands. Across the Wehrstreich, all the children know, if you don't behave, the Jack Slasher will come for you. His suggested skills are backstab and fieldcraft, and his suggested weaknesses are battle-crazed. And the reason that he has suggestions at all is because he has pretty set stats. His items being the pumpkin hat and skinning knife, his skill is bloodlust. And his character sheet is made to the same standard as all of the other character sheets with Dungeons & Degenerates, same size. We have the same format where the character stands off to the side for their portrait. Then we have their Agicon, Mag, Merle, Purr, and Stir stats. Their starting items and skills, as well as what class they are. This is a human, hunter, wild. And then the lovely track that shows you what kind of boons and banes they'll get as they increase or decrease the scale, the numbers here. And the cardstock is some of the highest quality I've seen for a non-big name publisher. Goblinko, I'm pretty sure, makes these in-house in their office/studio. See if I can find a made in. Do we have that anywhere? This is manufactured right in Portland. Yeah, it's literally right there. So made in the USA, baby. Okay, we have this incredibly cute character. This is the alley cat. The crime was the taint of corruption with which all cats are charged, everywhere, globally. Homeland is Brutzelburg. Alley cat was born with the mark of the beast and left to die at the edge of the witchwood. It was the curse of lycanthropy that both doomed and saved Alley cat, who lived as a wild animal in the haunted forest. Now, that's alley cat is a werewolf. Lycanthropy is specifically werewolfism, so interesting. The class is lycanthrope, so yeah, I would say that's a misnomer of a name, but therein lies the humor. The character graphic is separated from illustration. We have it superimposed on 2 different scenes here, so that's interesting to me. I have a question for anybody who has played Dungeons & Degenerates. Have you considered making your own characters? Have you? Have you homebrewed your characters to these sort of standards? You see that because there are 6 stats, and because of this track, and because of the beginning item skills and class, as well as special rules here, that there is a lot of potential for many, many, many different characters. The Wastelanders' crime was disobedience and manslaughter. They start in the wasteland. They were captured by a goblin warband and sold into slavery, fodder for the fighting pits of Bruttelberg. But the Wastelander finds herself trapped in an insane world she can't understand. One day, perhaps she will tread the barren open plains of the Badlands again over the crushed skulls of those who would dare to stand in her way. She also makes a lovely creme fraiche. That was my own. It occurs to me that I can't say outlandish things like that, adding on, because it kind of seems like it would be something that's actually in the character's bio. We'll just go ahead and give you a look at all of the characters and their standee form before I punch those out. We've got some really cool illustrations this time around. I'm definitely curious about who we're going to encounter here. Now we could probably go through some of the cards. We have Martial Discipline, which is a skill. Of course, the opposite side of the card has Mastery, which gives you the same description as the normal skill side, but also gives you the additional benefit of it being flipped to Master. Bloodlust, Shock Wave, Claws, Streetwise, Provoke, Shield Wall, River Rat, Lycanthropy, and Meditation, as well as Performance. These are all the cards you need to use these characters in your game. They may also be doubles of some cards. I'm not sure if I've seen some of these exact cards in the base game already, but we also have the Banished Sorcerer, thievery and possession of illicit substances. His homeland is the reptilian Sky City. And here is his character cards stat side. The River Pirate, crime, banditry, and grand theft. Did you steal the boat? No, she just joined a bunch of pirates. Her weakness is astynomiophobia. I don't know what that is. These are her stats. I'm going to look that up, actually. It is the specific intense fear of the police. We have the Dishonored Knight. He still bears the arms of Brutel, and his homeland is Bruttelberg. His crime was treason. Why? He was once a loyal servant at arms of House Fudliberger in Bruttelberg until they were methodically dismantled, illegalized, and executed by House Bardorak and the terrifying Fleischwolfnacht, or Knight of the Meat Grinder. The Dishonored Knight lost his elevated position in society when the entire household staff of House was outlawed for treason and conspiracy against the Wehrreich. Disgraced and masterless, the Dishonored Knight has no home and no sanctuary, but remains duty-bound to protect. For him, the war never ends. Oh, the poor guy. We next have the Soldier of Fortune, Death or Glory, stamped on his Iron Cross-shaped shield. He also wears an Iron Cross necklace. Banditry was his crime, and Pigskin Port his home. We have his stats here. The Carnival Drifter, definitely my favorite. I appreciate an alt baddie. Her crime was thievery and witchcraft, and her homeland is the Witchwood. She extracts her living from the citizens of the Wehrreich who hunger for distractions from their miserable and servile lives. She was raised by a circus clown and a bearded lady in a traveling carnival caravan of entrepreneurial entertainers. Grew up on the road surrounded by freaks, mutants, and misfits, struggling to survive on the scraps of a society that both marveled at and reviled them. Now, the roleplay in this game is entirely optional, but it stands to reason that you could definitely just take this entire template and go ahead and give her additional stuff, or you could edit the template and say that some of that didn't happen to her and replace it with your own lore should you wish. I think that would be totally reasonable. All of these kind of have their own color scheme. They're very muted versus the brighter, but well, no, I'm sorry, that's not exactly the case. Yeah, no, they're the same colors. So I wouldn't necessarily be able to tell the difference, say, between a base game character card and one from an expansion, so I would have to keep them separate if that's the case. Now, something that upsets me a little bit is I won't be able to fit all this stuff in the base game box. There's barely enough room in there as it is for all the stuff that needs to go back in there. I would have to take out the tray. Taking out the tray, I feel, is a criminal offense. I'll have to kind of mess with things to see if I can store stuff underneath the tray, which I also don't want to do, but it's okay. We have loot cards with this character expansion. So if the characters that you've seen, we've got immunity. We've got the immunity skill. Actually, also, you will never become poisoned if you master this. If the characters didn't tickle your fancy, then perhaps the loot will pickle your pansy. We have the Blinding Powder, the Skinning Knife. Hold on a second. This is interesting. Attacks with this item against filth ignore one arm. interesting. If you're attacking a specific thing, you're going to ignore one of their defense. I like that. The pumpkin hat, of course, itself also counts as food. The breastplate, the lucky tattoo. This card cannot be lost, exchanged, or stolen, but can be destroyed by acidic monsters. Treat it as an item when choosing a random item to discard, because, of course, if you're going to get a tattoo, then it could only come off if it gets acidized. The hunting hook. Oh my god, it's a ball and chain on one end and a hook on the other. That's crazy. The fortune cards. The sun. Never have I been so disturbed. The barbed whip. The shoddy shield. The bastard sword. The spiked maul. The filching familiar. Love me a good familiar. The begging bowl. The safety collar. The throwing axe. The pole axe. And that's that. It's the entire contents of that expansion.
Nay, elf, we did not defeat the beast. It yet lives, wounded but stalking, awaiting the one day one is open to its will, and it may continue to do so without end. It brings nightmares to our young, and makes our elders fearful for the day it returns, sinking its teeth into our throats, our wills, our way of life, and we facilitate this, if we are not careful, to the utmost. Then strike fanciful thoughts of expedition from your fancy, and help me rid the world of this evil. The beast cannot be defeated that way, elf. Our people learned through costly effort the truest way to stay the claws and fangs of our tormentor, once we had begun to banish it from our land, was to take its power. Yes, belittle it, showing its symbols as caricature and satire. Our artisans fashion crude art mimicking poorly the form of the beast. Our songs and poetry contain mockery of it. I know of this reasoning, my friend. It still yet invites those into bestyle thinking, dishonoring those who have fallen to it. I sympathize with you, but not the ill mind of the architect beyond, the one responsible for the lands to which you journey.
Okay, so we've looked at the contents of the expansion. I talked a little bit about how we could learn from the mechanics to maybe influence us for other games. Now, a lot of the games that I craft for already have so many of the same sort of homebrew crafts, because our minds just kind of go to the same places as we see these things revealed in these various dungeon crawlers. We say, what if we take, I see A, I see B, ooh, what if we took A and combined it with B? And it turns into this, there's no such thing as an original thought anymore circumstance, unless you are doing this for a while and you observe other people doing this and you sit down to make a few things that are unique but still balanced. That's the next challenge. You're going to run into, how can I make my unique thing but keep it fun and keep it balanced and keep it still within that realm of what the game kind of stands for. That is a challenge. It is definitely a challenge. But for those people who are just kind of going out on their own to homebrew for the first time, you don't know how to homebrew, you don't know what questions to ask, these kind of give you that answer. You have, for maybe a homebrew character card of your own, the standard template of there's a background image, there's a border, there's a illustration of the new character and the name of this character. You'll have to provide your character with 3 class keywords here, as well as what starting items you'd like them to have. They need to have some sort of shot at surviving, and they need to be some kind of viable option for a first-time player, or perhaps you're making an expansion or a character that's homebrew and you want it to be for advanced players only, or players who crave a higher challenge in difficulty. That's a thing too. The skill for this character is performance, but you could choose a skill or more than one. Oh wait, is there any character that has more than one skill? I don't think so, actually. Yeah, there is. The alley cat has claws and lycanthropy, so you could, for example, have 2 skills if you felt they were not OP. Stats that you give the character should sort of point towards a specific archetype in some way or another. You can look at the existing hero cards to get an idea of kind of what that means. What kind of role are they going to play if they are in a party? What kind of strengths are they going to have when they encounter the various different tests across the Werestrike? Are they going to be more magical? Is that going to mean that they're a little less strong? Kind of an archetype, kind of a trope, and actually kind of a cliche, but still something to consider. Where do you want to balance your character, and what balancing system do you want to use? We might think about like a linear scale where Stronger means dumber because intelligence is on this side and strength is on this side. So if you go this way, you have to be less strong. You could go the Elder Scrolls route and have a triangle and have 3 qualities across the triangle and kind of try to plot the existing characters in that triangle and figure out where your homebrew character could be placed. We talk a little bit about homebrew character design, but there's more to making homebrew than just characters. You could also make items, and you can see here that the items have a very clear anatomy. They are either one or two-handed after you get the graphic and the background and the border and the names. They do have a requirement as a strength of 8 to wield the pole axe. This does mean that more powerful items have a trade-off, either in requirements or maybe they do something to the character or limit the character in some way. But if it plays to the character's strengths, it can actually be an amazing accompaniment to that character. And they have to like protect it with their life and try not to lose it. This is a heavy item and it's worth 8 bags. Its attack is strength-based and it does have the keyword reach. You may roll an additional power die when you attack with this item. Compare this to the throwing axe. It's worth 4 gold. It is an item, it's one-handed, and it's a blade. The pole axe doesn't have the blade keyword. The attack is still strength-based, but it's melee. It does have an agility-based ranged attack. Melee, reach, and range are keywords common to pretty much all of the equipment that counts as weaponry, and I think it's clever to separate melee from reach. We've seen melee separated from range, but melee from reach, that's a new kind of nice clarity to have. I want to look at the Freaks and Psychos characters now, and then we'll talk a little bit more about how you might be able to make your own content. The first thing I'm going to suggest is you have a color printer capable of, it's not a high amount of different colors. Obviously, it's deceptive. It is deceptive. It looks like you could run this through a printing press that's only capable of like 4 colors. But the reality is, there's a lot more than that. It's just that the coloring is very bold. Okay, so it looks like the plastic band has done a much better job of keeping a hold of the cards this time around. So we'll just slide those down and remove them. We do have epic monster cards this time around, not just loot. And we have the tiny format. Gosh, these have a band around them too. Nice. More skills, but this time some weaknesses as well. Very interesting to have multiple decks of cards. These are kind of stuck together, it seems. I don't think it's going to hurt anything. I don't think the manufacturing will be compromised. No, it is not. But oh my goodness, they are definitely stuck together. So the last ones weren't. I wonder. Oh god, that might not be. No, that is 2. That is 2 that are stuck together. Oh gosh, that's not good. Here we go. Gonna have a little bit of damage to it. But no, but at least they're not ripping the colors or anything apart. We get a little bit of a wrinkle on there, you can see, from having to do that. Maybe there's a technique for unsticking stuff like that that's foolproof and never damages them, but you should never have to peel your stuff apart. So maybe this is a nice opportunity for, look at that. It even unpunched one of the characters for me. The solitary swordsman just can't get enough of himself. Here is the solitary swordsman. Here, you can have some ASMR peeling if you want. The unauthorized dueling and manslaughter charge has earned him the title of outlaw. He is marked for death. That's his weakness. Here are his stats. Another thing that you can use to really separate your homebrew character from the rest of the chaff is make intelligent use of this track. It requires a little bit more. Oh, the sharpshooter's cool. I like her. Him or her. I like them. But yet you could see there's little difference in what symbols are being used, but how they are placed does make a difference. These progression, rise and fall in the character. While the naughty naturalist here has a crime of perversion and smuggling of unauthorized wildlife. He is from Bruthelberg. I'm not surprised in the slightest. It's exactly the kind of behavior they breed in Bruthelberg. You may decide to count as wild or not in any given situation. So wild here has an asterisk, so that keyword is optional, and that is another lesson that we are learning from this batch of outlaws. That you can create a hero that does not necessarily have to follow their class restrictions all the time, as long as it's explicitly stated on the character card. The crime the sharpshooter has is manslaughter. She can hit a flying scrag in the eye at 100 paces. But a stray ricochet struck the lecherous and vile Werstmeister Hans Baradrak between the eyes, killing him instantly. If the shot was intentional, only the sharpshooter can say, and while experts ponder whether the death was a simple mistake or clever assassination, the sharpshooter waits in her cell with her trigger finger itching for retribution. Yeah, because the game is going to start you off in a cell, which I really like. We have a very common starting point for all of our heroes. The Highway Robber might be my new favorite. I love this aesthetic, love the hat, the black cloak. Well, there's not a cloak, there is a short jacket. The tall boots though, leather pants, really cool looking, but especially a fan of the hat. This lady is in trouble for armed robbery and banditry, but she looks like she's good at it, so can we kind of let her off the hook for that? She's also got a fear of the police, fear of the guards. Gotta get over your fear, man. Gotta go through some exposure therapy. Invite them to your castle, but then don't let them in. Stand up on the castle wall and threaten to fart in a general direction. It works out for the French. If it works for them, it'll work for you. We have the Fishy Confectioner. Fishoid merchant wild. Then the crime is tax evasion and violation of public health code. The first one is more serious than the latter, and indeed it wouldn't matter what was placed here. Assassination, murder, treason, tax evasion takes the cake. The Hermit Aesthetic. This is a word that strikes fear into my heart, thanks to Shadow of the Arid Tree expansion in Elden Ring. Suggested skills, Dope Smoker and Levitate. Weakness, Herbs Fiend. I could see that, yeah. Oh, and the last two are the first ones that I had to peel apart. The Charlatan Magician. Love the idea of this class. What is your crime? Grift and Chicanery. Yeah, that makes sense. Illusory Double and Performance are your skills. Hand Puppet and Throwing Knives, your starting items. The Cloaked Killer is a Reptilian Hunter Scholar. That makes sense. I like it a lot. One final note about what you can do to customize your own heroes, or outlaws rather, is pay attention to this special text that is unique to each of the outlaws. When you destroy a human with XP value 2 or more, make a magic test, and if you pass, gain 1 luck. It seems that these are objectives that you can reach to gain luck. So yeah, they're all luck-based. Sadly, the more detailed this line gets, the smaller the text has to be, so they don't ever use a new line. It just stays on one line, and the text shrinks and shrinks and shrinks, but that's okay. So definitely keep your expansions together if you are using them, so that you don't have to search through your skill deck forever and a day to find the starting skills for your expansion heroes. We have our infected token here, no wound recovery allowed, and we have our 3 epic monsters. We're going to look at the epic monsters now, just as a little treat for you. We've got the Hook Goat, which is a cult demon witch, keyworded monster. I love it. Love the hooked goat. Looks like somebody's on stilts, and there might yet be a few people stacked on each other's shoulders after the stilts to maintain this ferocious puppeteering of this monster with all of its hooks. The Castle of Horror itself is a construct of the undead variety. It's like Howl's Moving Castle, but it's built of bones, and some wily, ambitious necromancer has come along to try to control it, perhaps. The Guardiac Hologram. That's a construct, and that's not something I ever really considered. A hologram as an epic monster? A hologram as a monster of any kind? It's kind of like having a specter or ghost. All of your attacks are going to pass right through them, but at the same time, that's really cool. That's just really cool. It puts the specter in a different light, kind of paints a different picture with it. I am a fan. Okay, we have weaknesses now, and I'll look at those. Animal Lover. For you, there is no glory to be gained from slaying a hungry beast, even in self-defense. When you win a fight, if you destroyed one or more filth, make a morale test, and if you fail, you become demoralized. The Herb Fiend and the Xenophobe. When you fail a recovery test, while there are 1 or more non-humans in your party or accompanying you as an ally, you become demoralized. Damn xenophobes. Wanted to look at the skill cards for Transcendence, Repulsion, Performance, Misdirection. There's a lot of text on this one. For the mastery side, actually for just the normal skill side, there's a lot of text too. Black Market is actually a skill. Claws, again, counter, so we can have multiples of cards. Deadeye Shot, Dope Smoker, When you make a test while using an herb, you may roll an additional die and use any two. Exploit, find weakness, illusory, double, looter, lurker, and martial discipline. Grass monkey, ba-da-ba-da-ba, that funky monkey, ba-da-ba-da-ba. The equipment cards that come with this one are I said equipment, but it's loot. Smoke bomb, blunderbuss, the Scrog Eye Aspic, the Scrog of Burden, love it, love the Scrog of Burden, the Scrog Spike, the Dart Rifle, the Tranquilizer Darts, the Dart Pistol, the Poison Darts, the Hand Puppet, the Fancy Saber, the Throwing Knives, the Dueling Dagger, the Arquebus, the Spyglass, and the Wizard Pipe. These items, noticeably, on average, have a lot more text and a lot more rules attached to them. So these can be considered a little bit more average, a little bit extra in the world of Dungeon Degenerates Hand of Doom. That's 2 out of the 3 character expansion gifts. I would like to look at the Malingerers at this point, and I'll try to be speedy with this one, although I'm going to give it its due.
It would perhaps come as a surprise to you, then, that the story I told you just now is not my own. Indeed, the chief architect is one of your kind and mine. Not in name only, but in origin. You might very well be brothers, if not by blood, then by spirit. Impossible! The monster stalks elf. It hunts and haunts those who yield to fear, and prejudice and hate. That is the monster itself. We can but reduce it, disempower it in name and in symbol, until it is so small that it cannot hunt or haunt again, not any warrior, not even any defenseless babe. But in the Founder's very action and word, you will find naught but this same provocation to reduce the evil of which you speak, not a wish to spread the ideas that give rise to the beast. This I believe to be true, on my axe. You may very well need your axe, friend, if you are wrong. Trust that if we are wrong, we shall renounce our pleas for peace in this matter, and heads shall roll. This we vow.
Again, we're looking at perfect fitting Ziploc and plastic bands that are trying. They're trying so hard for me. Wonder why not paper? I always see paper holding these together. It's plastic with this one. It's not that I care, just an observation. The beefy barbarian this time. And I mean, why not? Why wouldn't you have a beefy barbarian? Manslaughter and escaped slave. Now that does make sense. The domesticated life couldn't extinguish the barbarian in him. He was raised as a farmhand, but he just couldn't. Just couldn't do it. The weird wizard. Oh no. We've got a little bit of stickage, but it's not nearly as egregious as the last thing. Weird wizard's a human, warlock, wizard. Pack of scratch is his starting items. That's not good. Possession, sorcery, and witchcraft. In school, he was picked last for sport, never had a girlfriend, couldn't get a job, even his family didn't know what to do with him. He was pelted with rotten turnips by people that were healthier, wealthier, and more wise than he. He lived a life on the outskirts with the crows. It was there on the outskirts that he discovered he could project his weirdness around him and form a sort of protective barrier that things wouldn't enter. That's called not bathing, my guy. Eventually, he found that he could form this weird energy into a ball and send it towards his foes. I don't like that. Next, we've got the Leather Lash, a human rogue scholar with the skill of dominate. Yep, it's that kind of game. She fits perfectly. She tracks. She's wanted for possession and attempted murder. Just attempted. She's got lurker and find weakness. I like that. She gets the weaknesses out of her victims because she pries it out of them, frames it as a kink, and then uses it against them, like in literal battle. This is the man scrag. This is like the Batman of Hand of Doom. It's a scrag, but it's a man dressed in a scrag suit. I wonder if he's well-to-do. He's got the scragarang and the scrag costume, so yeah, my references are on point there. He's got strike, fear, and detective. Vigilantism is his crime. I can get behind that. That's great. He is from Bruttelberg, and trust me, in Bruttelberg, they need all the vigilante help they can get. He's got combat reflexes and forlorn hope, but his weakness is moralistic. Now, this is great. Striking fear to the hearts of criminals all over the Wehrstreik, the man Scrag started his obsession with fighting crime because his parents were killed in front of him as they got out of the opera. You couldn't have inferenced instead of referenced? That's fun, though. I mean, it's a little too on the nose for me. I would have said out of a rock concert or out of the burlesque show. He used his family's great wealth to develop a persona that would make him a memorable adversary. We move on to the provincial prowler. I love her. I just love her. She's What a cutie pie. She's got the concealed knife and vial of poison. Her skill is street rat. Human rogue, wild, theft. She's just wanted for theft. She's just in jail for theft. She's a backstab and looter, but she is superstitious. We've got the squash sorceress. Now, this might be my favorite character of all time. It's just a pumpkin witch. Is that a mask? She's got the squash staff and spellbook. Her skill is nature's child. No, that's her face. I didn't mean to be disrespectful. I just wanted to make sure you didn't, no pumpkins were harmed in the making of this character, except for that pumpkin, which was necessary. A sacrifice. Meditation, shockwave with remorse as her weakness. The Fool. Love this pose, love this art. This expression is great. The Fool is a human rogue wild. There are a lot of rogues in this. The Bindlestiff and Magic Rose are his starting items. Is the Bindlestiff this the name for this thing? I never knew that. Begging and scrounging his way from town to town, the Fool calls no place home. He lives on the verge of the limitless possibilities that lie hidden on the road ahead, undaunted by the cares and concerns of the rational world. You know what? Ironically, he may be the wisest in all of the Wehrstreich. We have the warrior poet. Really cool. This is very, very much Prince. I mean, his illustration is even so much larger than life that it's got to encroach on the stats, and they have to change the actual format for how they display the number in the stat circle. It's insane. But yeah, literally Prince. What a beautiful tribute here for the warrior poet. He's got the axe and the shiny shield, and his skill is street songs. He's from the Solar Empire. Now, this actually looks a little bit more like, what's his name? Rick James. This might be a Rick James tribute, but I like to, actually, it's just Rick James, actually. I was wrong. I'm sorry, Prince. There might actually be references in the story of the warrior poet. Warrior poet. What did the 5 fingers say to the face? Slap! We got some cool icons here, from these clowny clowns to some hands swording their blades through sausages, which is a pretty common sight in these games. It's kind of the logo of Goblinko, one of their logos. Copyright Goblinko. We have, obviously, Detective, Dominate, Happy-Go-Lucky, Nature's Child, Rising Fury, Psychic War, Pugilist, Street Rat, Street Song, Strike Fear, Weird Time, and Moralistic. Whoops, sorry. Moralistic is the weakness introduced by this expansion. And the loot cards, which include the Axe. Love it. Bag of Scratch. Oh my goodness. Scratchers always target you. Bindlestiff. This is what this is. I didn't know that. And there are the details of it and what makes it a unique item. Gotcha. The concealed knife, the enchanted sword, the leather gear, the magic rose, the scrag costume, the scraggerang, the solid shield, but also the shiny shield. You just roll additional power die. The spell book, the squash staff, the sturdy sword, the wicked whip, and the vial of poison, all with their own requirements. That's the Malingerers expansion. Now, I might not be totally sure what groups these different character expansions together to create the themes that they're kind of based on. In my opinion, you could have taken Malingerers and applied it to any of the 3. You could have taken the character expansion without the keyword, the fancy title, and applied it to any of the 3. Freaks and psychos could have been applied to any of the 3 because they're all freaks. They're all psychos. That's evident in every single one of their backstories, the crimes for which they are wanted, the illustrations. Yes, they are it is freaks and psychos, every last one of them. But I think that that's fine. I don't think that there is any real clear grouping up here. I think that the intention is just to have some new characters that are viable. And instead of using existing resources, they come with brand new mechanics and loot and resources that you can use for starting items. And I think that that's pretty cool. It would have been even more interesting if there was some kind of theme, but I guess it's better. I probably would have done the same. Better to just have people from all over the lands collected into each character expansion, because let's say I'm playing this and I don't want to collect characters that are from, say, Brettelberg, because maybe I just really don't like the theme of it. That doesn't make any sense, but it could make sense if it were a more thematically narrow type of land. Well, I don't have any choice. I gotta get it because it contains characters from the Rotting Swamp, and I love the Rotting Swamp, so I gotta get the pack to get the Rotting Swamp characters. That's just one example of the kind of psychology that might be at play when you have an expansion like this. But I hope that you all enjoyed this thorough examination of the character expansions and my little skit that I put together also. Thank you so much for your kind attention. Please look forward to, or look for, if this is an older video at this point, the other videos that I've done on the Dungeon Degenerates franchise. And I will see you in the next exciting and perhaps disgusting adventure. Until next time, Outlaws, I bid you farewell and onward for now.